We haven't seen the pandemic change directly the politics of the Middle East. What we have seen is a huge amount of change during the period of the pandemic. And I would characterize that as a deepening polarisation within the broader Middle East between two very powerful power blocks, one centred around Saudi Arabia and the Emirates, the other around Turkey and loosely around Iran. And those power groups are now very much defining the geopolitics of the region. That has really come to the fore during the period of the pandemic, but the pandemic hasn't been a direct driver for that. I think for most of the countries in the region, the pandemic has been overwhelmingly a domestic consideration, and whereas it's been an opportunity for collaboration, actually collaboration outside predictable patterns and partnerships has been slight. There were some early overtures made across fault lines, both from the GCC to Iran, and indeed between Qatar and other members of the GCC, but they didn't develop into something of greater geopolitical significance. Well, the changes that we've seen are, which I've characterised as this polarisation within the Middle East. They've got a number of drivers there. I mean, one are just the specific issues. The issue of normalisation with Israel, which was a critical decision point for a lot of countries in the region for a long time. Suddenly, the whole issue has come to life with the Abraham Accord and then the agreements between Bahrain and Sudan with Israel. So that has now more deeply defined which side of the divide countries are on. The second is the legacy of issues in the region, particularly position towards Iran, and as both as a separate issue, but also because Iran's there as a kind of subset, what's happening in Syria. Now, on those issues, both of which are very much ongoing for the Middle East, where you stand determines of which one of those camps you are in. And then I think the third one is the clashing visions of what the Middle East should be. And there's a clear difference and tension between what the vision of the Middle East is as articulated by Gulf leaders such as Mohammed bin Salman, Mohammed bin Zayed on the one hand, and that which is articulated by Recep Tayyip Erdogan and Turkey and Turkish government at the moment. And that is these visions which extend not just across the Arab world, but also, I think in the case of the Turkish vision, extend north towards the Caucasus. These are not long-term compatible. So I think there's a cluster there of differences of strategic vision and differences on specific political issues. Well, the economic impact of COVID is much easier to discern in the Middle East than the political impact. And first of all the economies, whatever shape they were in the Middle East, have been heavily hit by COVID, particularly those economies that relied upon free movement of goods and people. So the Gulf economies hit very hard there. They were already dealing with suppressed oil prices and so suppressed revenues. Now this is, I think, all taken together going to constitute quite a major change to some of the features of those economies. Whether or not they'll be able to rely on a ready, free flow of expatriate labour, that's a question. Dependence on connectivity through aviation industry and indeed through shipping and so on and so forth. All of that will, I think that is now open to question. Those countries also are the ones with some of the most ambitious visions for the Middle East, and already we've seen some signals that those visions might have to be amended in the light of, if you like, the post-COVID economy. I mean, against that, you've got a terrific amount of resilience in these economies, and there's a high level of engagement already in both effecting a speedy recovery, and, if you like, actively redesigning economies rather than just sort of waiting for it to happen in a passive sense. So even though some of these economies could shrink by 5 to 6%, there's a very strong focus on still ensuring that the economic model survives.